McCoy. That guy, right, Rizzy, right there, knows a lot about Miami Hurricanes football recruiting, so on and so forth. Don't put him in a box. But I want to get to something really quick. Gaby, Urrutia, thank you very much for joining us. How you been, man?
I'm good, man. I hope I sound okay. I'm using different headphones. Good.
Sound good. You sound good. Thanks for joining us, man. Gaby is going to be a regular on the show, right? For pretty much the rest of the season or whenever he wants to come on, he's got the green light. So a guy with a lot of information. But this is not the first time Gaby's joined a show, right? When I was last year, I was with Slam Radio on Sirius XM channel 145, and he made a tweet that kind of got my attention, and I said, I got to get Gaby on air because this makes absolutely no sense. I want to talk about it really quick before we get into some football talk. So Gaby is of Cuban descent, Cuban heritage, just like myself, and the man does not like Cuban sandwiches. Gaby, can you please one more time explain what the heck goes into that? How?
I mean, I'm a pretty picky eater, first of all, so there's just a lot about a Cuban sandwich that's just really easy for me to dislike. Pickles, not a fan, just don't do it. Mustard, not a mustard guy. Honestly, just even like the sliced deli meat. I'm not a big sliced meat type of guy. There's just so much about it. I mean, the bread and the cheese works perfectly for me, but everything else is something that's just kind of outside of my lane. So yeah, it's probably a really bad Cuban food take, but I mean, it is what it is. I'm standing in the paint on it, and I will wear that.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. So when you see Gaby around Canes games or so on and so forth, give them a little jab about it, because and here's one. Like I said, my mom's Cuban and everything. I can't stand croquetas. How about that?
See, that's borderline offensive to me. That makes me want to just log off the show. So, I mean, I don't know how serious you are about my Cuban sandwich take, but I think your croqueta take is significantly worse in my opinion. So I guess we both can hold that over.
No problem, man. Mondo, thanks for joining us, man. Appreciate your continued support. Mondo's one of those ride or dies. Gaby, man, wanted to ask you, I think, an obvious question that a lot of guys want to know, a lot of Hurricanes fans want to know. After the loss, third straight for Miami, it looked better than they did 2 weeks ago against Middle Tennessee State, but it's still a loss, a big loss in terms of ACC play. How are recruits looking at the loss? How are recruits feeling about 3 losses in a row? I know this is a class that on the outside looking in, they seem to stick together. You see, tweets, hey, we got this, we're still coming, but you're the man, with the inside knowledge. So how do you feel about them sticking together as of October 11th?
Yeah, I mean, right now, honestly, I'm not super worried about it. And I feel like, outside perspective, it's so easy to make it seem like the walls are caving in on everything. But I think the reality is this is Mario Cristobal's first full recruiting cycle. I don't think he was selling a dream behind the scenes that would suggest that, these guys were expecting, anything major, in year one under this regime. I think he was very much, maybe, just telling them like, hey, look, this is going to be a process. We have some things we need to kind of overcome. Not stuff that's ever, spoken about publicly. But, I think that what these kids are buying in on is sort of the vision of the program, right? Like Mario Cristobal has a clear vision for the program, and he has a high expectation for what he wants. I think he's selling that the fact that, you guys are my players, and, again, you want to win with what you got. You want to develop the roster with what you got. That's fine. But the reality is that, Mario Cristobal's recruiting these guys in to be his first full class. Mm-hmm. He got a few pieces at the end of the, late in that 2022 cycle, but this 2023 cycle is really all him. It's ranked number 10 in the country. And I think a lot of these guys see that, there is opportunity at Miami where they can come in and contribute earlier, be a part of what helps take the program to the next level. So yeah, I could definitely see just from, that perspective of looking in and being like, oh, Miami's lost 3 straight games. This is all going to blow up. And that's all fun and good. But this is his first class. And I think that's what's so important. If this was year 3 or year 4 and it just wasn't working, I could buy some stock in that. You know what? Hey, let's see if Francis Malgo is going to go visit Tennessee this weekend for Alabama, Tennessee up in Knoxville. But I do think the fact that, it is that first group, I think there is just a sense of buy-in that, it's not about the right now for those guys. Right. It's about the future. And I think that's what these kids are looking forward to.
That makes sense. And you actually said a couple of things there that I didn't think about, because I can knee jerk sometimes, but before I put it in a tweet, before I go fire off on a show, I sit back and I think about it. I personally was never thinking that, oh my God, this, that, whatever the third, because I trust Mario. I trust the man blindly. I trust the man, the staff that he's built, the types of guys he's recruiting. But I didn't think about the vision that he was selling these guys. Like, hey, look, it's not going to be now, but you guys are going to be part of the makeup because you guys are the type of guys that I want around here. I liken that to, we were just talking with Frank Fort. Love that guy. Love that man. He's great. He was through the thick of the rebuild of the Butch years. And the guys, the greats, the guys like the Santana Mosses, the Ed Reeds, the Joaquin Gonzalez's, Reggie Waynes, you name them, Dan Morgan's, he was there for that and he saw that. So I kind of liken this to that. I'm not saying that this year is going to mirror that, but the types of guys that Miami's, they're coming here regardless. They're coming here because, yeah, they're two and three. So what? Like, I know what I bring to the table.
Right.
And so the thing that I wanted to ask you was, I mean, you talked about these guys may be playing earlier, so on and so forth. Do you get the sense that they're coming in like, no, I'm not coming in to wait. I'm coming in to contribute now because I see what that receiver room looks like. I see what that O-line looks like in their inconsistencies. I think I could do better on coverage-wise in a third and obvious when we can't get off the field on third down because we're first and second down all-stars. How do you feel about most or all of those guys thinking about them coming in to contribute right away?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's the mentality of a lot of these guys, right? Especially, so, you know, the top half of the class. I mean, I think there's definitely some developmental pieces in there. And I think there's guys that understand, yeah, you know, I need to spend a year or two in the strength program and, you know, kind of get adjusted. But I mean, if I'm Francis Mauigoa, I'm licking my chops because, I mean, there's an opportunity to walk into, you know, maybe not saying that he's going to be the blindside left tackle, but, you know, I think he can potentially slide into that right tackle spot and, you know, be a 3-4 year starter here. I think if you're, you know, Nathaniel Ray Joseph or Robbie Washington, I think you're looking at that receiver room and being like, I can bring something a little bit different than maybe, you know, these guys aren't having, you know. And, you know, kudos to the receivers. I thought they took a big step forward. Yeah. You know, I've been one of the harshest critics. You know, I'll definitely stand on the mountaintop for them when they do perform. I thought that they were great. I thought they answered the call against North Carolina. But yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of dudes that are on this team that have to be looking at this roster and being like, all right, I mean, this is a team that's 2-3 right now. I mean, it's not like there's a bunch of future NFL players on there. And, you know, maybe if I don't walk into a starting spot, I can crack the rotation, work my way in there. We're seeing what Nigel Kelly's doing where, you know, he's acclimating himself in there. I don't know how many people realize this, against North Carolina on Saturday, they pulled Akeem Messidor off the field and inserted Nigel Kelly. Like, that is a lot of trust. And that's the play that Nigel Kelly got, like the half sack where it was him. And I think Corey Flagg, like, go back. If you watch like the game tape of that, I saw it in real time. Like, Akeem Messidor was walking off, Nigel Kelly's walking on. I turned to David Lake and I'm like, they literally just did that. Like, what the heck is going on? He gets to the quarterback, you know? So a lot of these freshmen, they can adjust and kind of get their way in there when they get there in January, the way Wesley and Nigel have. So a lot of these guys, again, maybe not day one, but I think a lot of them feel like they can contribute as first year guys, which, you know, is important, especially early on. You want to stack elite players that can come in and play.
That's all music to Miami Hurricanes football fans' ears. And by the way, if you're just now joining us, Gaby Urrutia, 247 Sports, you're listening to Miami Hurricanes Watch with myself on the 305 Sports Talk Network. Mike McCoy, Gaby Urrutia, talking some Hurricanes recruiting after Miami's slide to start the season, 2-3, 3 losses in a row, 0-1 in conference play, going up to Virginia Tech. On Monday, yesterday, you probably were there. If not, maybe we're on Zoom. Coach was asked about, I'm not sure if it was you or it might have been Manny Navarro, about, you know, younger guys playing. And I played it in the first segment, but I think it's worth mentioning again. And I think it's relevant to what we're talking about right now. So I just want you to hear again, because like I said, you're probably there, how Coach talked about the younger guys getting reps. And here's Coach Cristobal talking about that right now. We'll give the guys a little bit longer to pull it up, but just really quick, guys, let me know when you have it. Just let me know, and I'll go ahead and give it up. But the class you're just talking about right now. So Cyrus Moss doesn't come here from Mario Cristobal. Isn't named head coach. Neither's Nigel Kelly. Maybe Jaleel Skinner. I don't know. No. Trevante. No. Okay. Thank you for confirming. No. Trevante Citizen. No. Definitely not. Who else? I mean, the transfers are definitely not coming. And I made a point in the first segment that you look at the guys that are consistent contributors and guys that are the Akeem Messidors. Coach spoke glowingly about him on Monday. And he came up and he said, look, you know, we need more of those guys here at Miami. And That's the type of guy that Mario's going to recruit. That's the type of mentality that he's going to recruit. And that's the type of production you could expect out of a Mario Cristobal recruit. So this is just season 1. All right. And he's a transfer. So again, it's going to take some time. And Frank Ford talked about it. But here's that clip of Mario talking about the young guys that are going to be getting some more time. Sorry about that. Thought it was ready. But yeah, man, it was a class that was, and you guys can go ahead and roll it whenever you have it, and I'll shut up. But it was a class that was ranked like in the 50s or 60s when Mario was hired, and then they finished 15th in the country. So that in and of itself, we already knew that Mario Cristobal was a hell of a recruiter. And then it's just about getting the right pieces, everybody finding their own niche. And I just love, I think I asked you this during the game, or maybe it was pregame on Saturday. If you could just repeat it to the new audience here that maybe not have been listening pregame, in terms of a leader and in terms of a recruiting ambassador for the class, can you talk about who that is and why?
Yeah, to me, that's Ray Joseph. The top two. I mean, for us, the top 247 receiver out of Miami Edison, and I think a lot of it is just kind of. I mean, you were kind of talking about the DJ Dallas comparison, kind of like the vocal leader, the one that's going to rally the troops. I think that embodies Nathaniel Joseph so well. After he's been at every home game this year, he's been recruiting for them. After that Middle Tennessee State loss, he was kind of super even keeled. And should I stop?
You can go ahead and finish your thought, and then we'll roll it after you're done.
And I think Nathaniel Joseph is that guy that kind of gets everyone together. After that Middle Tennessee State loss, he was on Twitter saying, "Hey, we're still going to kind of get this thing rolling. We're going to keep this thing together. We're all locked in." And I feel very much like Nathaniel Joseph is that guy who's like sort of the vocal leader of the class, if you want to say that. I think Antonio Tripp has I think he definitely has a say in that as well. But right now, to me, it's been Nathaniel Joseph.
And I think that's beautiful because it's a local guy. And I think the importance of a local guy being the leader for the recruiting class, I think that's a big deal because, we know the importance of keeping local guys that are really, really good players home, because there's nothing worse than turning on a game in the SEC and seeing a Teddy Bridgewater dominate, or not that he was in the SEC, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Ja'Cory Brooks over with Alabama, and it's like, well, damn it, these guys.
Dallas Turner.
We go on, and it's just frustrating to name the guys, but we got the link ready. Thanks, guys. Go ahead and roll it.
You mentioned Nigel Leak and Wesley. Who are some of the other younger players, such as Jaleel Skinner, who have really started to emerge as we approach the midway point of the season?
Well, I think you mentioned Jaleel right there. He's a guy that continues to get better and better. Great tight end room. Guys like Will Mallory, Don Momorelli, Elijah Arroyo, they've all done a really good job helping him. Khalil Brantley's done a really, really good job. I like to think that Colby Young is a young guy because he just hasn't played that much, right? Excuse me. I like to think Brashard Smith is another young guy. Only been in for a year plus and is coming on really, really strong. I guess it could go on and on because I know you guys probably view Cam and James as veterans, but they're only sophomores. So thought Leonard Taylor is a guy worth mentioning. Really played strong and getting better and changing his body and really committed himself to improvement. So I think guys like that have stood out. And Inez Cooper's going to be a great one. He really is. Trevante was on his way to being really, really good until he got banged up. But we see Flashton Isaiah Horton challenged him this week to be accountable, to be trusted when it comes to game day. So we'll see what type of competitor we get tomorrow on the practice field, and sure could rattle off a few more.
And again, we played that in the first segment, but it was relevant to what we were Gaby and I were talking about right now. Younger guys that are going to be seeing the field, and the freshman class is committed right now, and others that will be committing can expect the same thing because Mario doesn't hold any punches. Who deserves to play will play. But I wanted to talk about the second wave that Mario mentions every now and then. He doesn't, bring it up often, but everybody was wondering about when is the second wave? When is the second wave? We're not going to get the second wave with 3 losses. Relax, calm down, it's coming. But can you give us a little insight about what you do know about this second wave without giving too much information away?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know like specifically about a second wave. I think that's definitely some optimism, maybe just some, from Cristobal, just kind of saying, they're still working on plenty of guys behind the scenes. They're still, actively recruiting. a ton of dudes. This class is not close to being over.
Mm-hmm.
I think I think more like, not really that like, oh, we're about to go on a string of, because that that late June, July run was historic. I mean, really, like just in terms of the program and how that's been. I mean, me personally, I mean, I obviously haven't been doing this very long, but I haven't seen anything like that from Miami. So I think more so than just like, oh, we're gonna go on 5 straight commitments or anything like that. It's more just, they are still recruiting a ton of dudes. They're still trying to, put the finishing touches on this class. There's 17 guys in there right now. I think there's room for about 7 or 8 more if it works out that way. And so I think that's more so what maybe he's alluding to with this whole second wave.
Okay.
Maybe they're optimistic kid would announce maybe sooner than he originally did. I think Samson Akinlola, the 5-star tackle out of Massachusetts, might fall into that category. I think some out there thought that, before, who was it that committed in like late July? I know it wasn't Connor Liu. It was another. I don't know. But some people. It was Monroe Freeling that I think he was He was committing in general. They thought that he ended up committing to Georgia.
Right.
They thought that Samson Akinlola could have potentially jumped on board even before Freeling announced. So I think that at one point they felt really, really good about it. I mean, everyone saw those crystal balls rolling in. He's kind of hit the pause button on all that stuff. He plays on Saturdays.
Right.
So it's kind of tough for him to kind of get around. His open Saturday, though, November 5th weekend, Florida State weekend. I think that's going to be very telling to see if or where he ends up that weekend. So I think Samson Akinlola, cross your fingers, is a part of that second wave. And then just kind of like the rest of the work that they're trying to do, to close out wide receiver, to get some guys on the defensive line, Ruben Bain, you got the Stanquan Clarks. You got the Micah Mays over at Palm Beach Benjamin, who they're definitely giving a nice hard look at. Tayshawn Lyons, who's a kid out in California. I mean, there's still so much left on the board. There's so much meat in the bone. So there's still a lot that they're trying to accomplish on the recruiting trail. So I think it's maybe more a testament to that.
This show's normally over at 9:00, but I got to ask you, because we're talking about the future of Hurricanes football, and you mentioned a guy that I wanted to ask you about. I'm glad you brought him up. Ruben Bain is probably the Wesley Besainth of this class. Mm-hmm. What do you get from him? Because from what I've heard from people that are in the know, like yourself, he wants to win. He wants to see Miami win, and I get that, right? But he's also a legacy guy. How much of that is big on him, or is he just like, look, this is all business decision? What is your take on him, and maybe if and when he'll pop?
Yeah, I don't think that this is a recruitment that's going to end, anytime soon, unfortunately, unless something crazy happens. I think he still has a couple of official visits in his back pocket that he hasn't really used. You mentioned Wesley Besaint. I mean, let's not forget how that recruitment kind of came down. It was really down to the wire. I think he committed on a Wednesday, and on Monday, the crystal ball forecast was off Florida State. I mean, there was a chance that was going to happen. Manny Diaz was on the verge of getting fired. They had just kind of, started bringing in Mario Cristobal. Mario Cristobal closed, which is a really big deal. Kind of closed. I think he committed like the day or the day after Manny Diaz got fired. It was wild, but it had already kind of been out there that Mario Cristobal's coming. Insane recruitment, but it was late. So I could see things playing out similarly. The school I'm watching is Alabama, man. I mean, I think in the eyes of, talent evaluators, obviously we saw the big junior year, the 29.5 sacks, the 49.5 tackles for loss. I think there was still something, that people kind of wanted to see from him, and especially how he would kind of, continue to develop as a senior. I think he's checking off all the boxes for these guys. We're updating our rankings tomorrow. I believe he's going to be a top 100 player in the country when that happens. So he's just on a steady incline, up and up and up. And, I think he's very big time. I'm looking at Alabama. I think Auburn's in there. He's going to spend this coming weekend up at Florida State as they host Clemson. So that's going to be a big weekend. But, Miami is home, and they're doing everything that they possibly can to keep him, in the 305. He is Dade County's top uncommitted prospect, and that's one that they feel like they absolutely need to have. And, after watching him, over the past few years, there's definitely no doubt in my mind that he could be very Akeem Mesidor-esque with maybe a little bit more explosiveness. I think the Akeem Mesidor role is definitely one they should be pitching to Ruben Bain, because he, obviously a guy further along in his development, but, maybe a little bit quote unquote undersized, someone that can play a little bit of inside and outside, has that high motor and a high IQ. I think, they are kind of displaying what Ruben Bain could potentially be in this defense, with some potentially, good, complementary pieces to that. So I think that they're, definitely a must-get type of guy for Miami. I do think that they have a good chance. He was still good even after that North Carolina loss. Said that he, again, another one that understands the process and how this wasn't going to happen in 1 year. He wasn't doom and gloom. He wasn't like, oh, Miami's not winning, this isn't for me. I do think that they're gonna have to take care of business eventually, kind of start showing some of that promise, which I think they will. But Ruben Bain is that dude for them. I mean, talk about top of the board type of guy, name circled in red on the recruiting board. He is that for Miami, and they got to do what they got to do to make sure he stays.
Might as well close out the show with us, Gaby, if you don't mind, just a few more minutes. So I asked this to guys in recruiting circles just to see how they feel about it, because I get different answers all the time. I asked Larry Bluestein about it, and it was actually middle of the summer of 2020 that I asked him about it, because Miami was in the middle of the recruiting process with James Williams and Jake Garcia. Miami ended up landing both of those guys. The big time, the whale in the room. The whale was James Williams. So what I asked him, and I want to ask you now, in terms of Miami and losing so many over the years, over the history of recruiting, they've lost a lot of local big time talent. Sometimes to interstate rivals, sometimes to Alabama, sometimes they go to the West Coast, right? So what do you think, in your opinion, is bigger for Miami to land? Do you think is landing the local 5-star national recruit, is that bigger or as important than saying to the country, hey, we can go out and get that big time quarterback that's being nationally recruited by everybody on the West Coast? What do you think is more important to a Miami program?
Yeah, that's a tough question. I mean, I feel like it's kind of a preference thing, right? Like who is the 5-star local recruit? Are we talking Brandon Inniss? Is it a bigger deal to get a Brandon Inniss or a Jaden Rashada? I mean, I think that's totally up for debate. I think there's an argument either way. I do think that there's something about, you need to keep the elite South Florida players home. Like, you have to. They've gone out and they've performed well at other places. Again, I mean, Dallas Turner right now, in the current state of football, is the prime example that, he is a potential game-changing pass rusher for you. But there's also a lot to Miami being able to go into California and be, Texas A&M and Oregon and LSU and Florida for, really who's probably someone that, for at least for us, may end up as a 5-star quarterback, by the time we expand that up to 32 guys. I personally like the national approach. I think the best of the best in the country do it. You need to be able to go to California to get a kid. You need to be able to go to Virginia to get a kid. You need to be able to go to Texas to get a kid. You need to be able to recruit the kids that are around your area. Alabama's doing that really well right now, keeping some Alabama kids home. So you got to do both really, really well. And I think that comes with time. I think that comes with winning as the program, continues and trends towards success. I think both of those things meeting in the middle is best case scenario. Right now, I'm a huge Brandon Inniss guy, man. If I had to make my choice, I think Brandon Inniss is just that type of dude. Not saying I would take him over Jaden Rashada. You need to have that quarterback, but man, if there's one guy that I can kind of cherry pick, like I feel like would significantly improve a specific room, I mean, Brandon Inniss is that kind of dude for me. So yeah.
Current Ohio State commit, and you can't blame them. They're doing their thing, putting wide receivers in the league. All right, their wide receiver coach, Brian Hartline, one of the best in the country, maybe the best at that position. So